If you are feeling poorer than you were in the previous few leagues, you are not alone. Because there is not really any league mechanics that are juicing up the maps and campaign, currency, scarabs and loot drops in general has been drier than the desert in this league. If you are stuck in the vicious cycle of your build sucks because you have no currency to buy gear, and you have no currency because your build sucks too much to farm anything, I have just a solution for you. And her name is Sister Cassia. Blight is the only farming strategy in the game that does not require any juicing to generate a profit, and it can be done by any build, no matter how bad it is. I know this because I happened to choose the wrong league starter, and my character is literally doing 0 DPS. Lacerate Gladiator is actually a bait, so no matter what you do not play that build. Luckily, my character can still do Blight without any problem, so at least I can dig myself out of this hole. As with any farming strategy video, let's start with the Atlas passive tree. We'll first go through all the Blight related nodes. This cluster here improves the rewards that you get from the Blighted chests and make them have a chance to be openable again. This one doubles the health of your palm and makes Blight monsters take more damage. You can also take the Cassia's Pride keystone, but I personally do not find it worth it because we'll be building mostly crowd control towers that don't do a lot of damage, so the damage increase is actually not very significant. The Fungal Horizon cluster makes the chest drop more Blighted maps, and the cluster next to it makes it so that the unique Blight bosses have a chance of adding additional reward chests. I do not recommend taking the Blight spawn notable unless you are really confident in your character's DPS, because there are some unique bosses that can jump and bypass your stun and shield tower and go straight for your pump. So if you cannot DPS them down quickly, they can ruin a lot of your maps. Lastly, the cluster at the bottom makes the Blight encounter spawn more non-unique monsters, which scales the loot explosion at the center when you finish the Blight encounter. Additionally, there are some nodes that makes your tower cheaper, and Templar Ingenuity gives you the ability to salvage the towers for additional loot based on how many different high-tier towers you have built. I personally do not recommend leaning too much into Templar Ingenuity if your character is weak, because to consistently complete most of the Blight encounters, you will want to build the same few towers instead of going for a variety. The next mechanic that we will be putting a lot of points into is scarabs. Scarabs can be extremely lucrative to farm, and we will be running around the maps looking for the Blight encounter anyway, so might as well farm for some scarabs. Many of the rare scarabs can be sold for 10 to 30 chaos, and some might even sell for close to 1 divine. Most of the scarabs nodes are for more and rarer scarabs to drop, and we also take a lot of nodes here to block the less valuable scarabs, so there is a better chance of getting the more expensive ones. Lastly, we also take Shaping the Sky, Mountains, and World, so we can map sustain and don't have to buy any. Given that most players will not have all the Atlas passive points at this point of time, we will stop here at 110 points. If you have more points, just work towards some of the nodes here for a higher chance to drop more expensive scarabs. Ambush and Essence's scarabs should be both good options. I will link the Atlas passive tree in the description below. Now that we have our Atlas passive tree, let's talk about how exactly to run this strategy. Since this is a zero investment strategy, we'll be using what we have and buy nothing from the market. Starting with the map, we'll just use whatever T16 maps that we have. For favorite maps, the best map to run Blight is T16 Toxic Sewer, but that would require you to have 2 Void Stones. If you do not have that yet, the Crystal Ore map should do just fine. If your build cannot handle T16 maps yet, this strategy is still viable, just that it will be quite a bit less profitable because T16 has the chance to drop higher tier Blighted maps, which is where most of our profits will come from. So, if you are running below T16, try to invest in your character as soon as possible so you can comfortably run T16 maps. To prepare the maps, since chisels are still quite expensive at this point of the league at almost 1 chaos each, I personally would not chisel the maps. Fortunately, alchemy and scouring orbs are still quite affordable, so I will at least out the maps and scour if there is any mods that your build cannot run. After that, we just put the map in the map device and that's it. No scarabs, no anything. Once you are in map, just clear it normally until you hear Sister Cassia's horrible singing.
and the unrighteous were turned to ash, and the unrighteous were turned to ash, and the unrighteous were turned to ash. Yes, they were, and the unrighteous were turned to ash. Look at them.
Click on the palm to start the Blight encounter and focus on finding a good spot to build one chilling, one stun, and one empowering tower together. This combo, when upgraded to level 3, should perma-stun any mobs, so you can take your own sweet time to pick them off. Do be mindful not to spend all your materials immediately if you don't have to, so you can build new towers when a new lane spawns. Prioritize building one level 3 stun tower for each lane first, and ideally as close to your palm as possible. If that lane is immune to stun towers, indicated by this logo here, build a level 3 chilling tower instead. And when things have stabilized and you have some spare materials, start building meteor towers and scout towers to kill things off and finish the Blight encounter. Once you have done a few Blight encounters and have some oil saved up, look for opalescent and silver and indigo and violet oils so you can put these two anointments on your rings, which will make things a lot easier in the future. The chilling tower anointment gives your chilling tower perma-freeze, which is super powerful. The meteor tower one is just a flat DPS increase, so your Blight encounters can be finished in a shorter time. Do bear in mind that every Blight encounter is random. Some will be just outright impossible due to the placement of the towers and the types of mobs that spawn. So don't beat yourself up when Sister Cassia starts shouting at you for not doing a good job. If you are struggling with most of the Blight encounters, you can unspec the immune response notable, which should make the encounter spawn less monsters and at a slower rate, so you can have more breathing space. Once you have cleared the Blight encounter, just proceed to clear the rest of the map and the map boss for some extra loot and map sustain. Next, let's talk about how to run the Blighted maps. This is where most of the profits come from, so it is worth juicing it up if you have the materials on hand. I suggest only running Blighted maps that are tier 14 and above, as any tier below that is not really worth the time running due to the low quality of the loot. But if you only have the lower tier Blighted maps available, you can still run them to get a small profit, but just don't spend too much resources to juice them up. As Blighted maps can be anointed, we'll be anointing them with 3 crimson oils to make some of the chests lucky. Lucky simply means that the loot will be rolled twice and the game will give you the better loot out of the 2 rolls. If you do not have enough crimson oil, you can either upgrade lower tier oils and stop at crimson, or just use azure oil instead, which is the cheaper but less rewarding alternative. If you do not have the Blight stash tab, you can also vendor 3 of the same oil to any vendor to get 1 oil of the higher tier. If you find the Blighted maps are still too difficult, you can mix in some amber oils instead to make the towers cheaper. Next, I would recommend to also chisel and out the maps to scale the rewards even more. Since you can easily let the towers do all the work while your character stays at a very safe distance, you can actually run map modifiers that you normally would not run in normal maps. However, there are 2 modifiers that you absolutely must avoid. Monsters cannot be stunned, and monsters' movement speed cannot be modified to below base value. These 2 mods will make your stun and chilling towers basically useless, so make sure that you reroll them no matter what. And for the last step, I personally always corrupt the maps, so there's a chance for tainted oil to drop. The price of tainted oil is not great right now, but it will go up as the league progresses, so it is good to farm some up and you can sell them off whenever the price is good. Also, do bear in mind that the Atlas passive tree will not affect your Blighted maps, so you will not have some of the advantages and disadvantages that exist in the Blight encounters in maps. Generally, Blighted maps are a lot easier than Blight encounters, but bad RNG can still make some of the maps impossible, albeit a lot less likely. The tower building strategy is exactly the same with Blight encounters, so I will not repeat them here. But an extra tip that I want to mention is that it might be worth turning up the dialogue volume so you can hear Sister Cassia's call out whenever a new lane is spawning. While it can get very annoying to hear the same dialogue again and again, not paying attention when a new lane is spawning is the #1 reason why people fail Blighted maps. So, I'm afraid you do have to listen to Sister Cassia. Also, try to not build your towers too far away from the palm, as the towers will stop working if you are more than 1.5 screen away from them. Always prioritize building closer to the palm even if the layout is not great, as it should improve as more lanes start to spawn. Now that you know how to run this strategy, let's set some expectations about the rewards. Since this is a zero investment strategy, it is only good to get you going when you absolutely have no currency to spend on other strategies or are not strong enough to run them. Almost every other farming strategy will be more profitable than this one in the long run, so make sure that you do not stick with this strategy for too long, well, unless you really like running it, I guess. With that being said, these are some of the notable loot that I have gotten after about 4 to 5 hours of farming either T16 maps or the Blighted maps that drop from them. In terms of raw currency, I got 4 Exalted Orbs. Wrong league. Anyway, while these are almost worthless now, they are as rare as Divine Orbs. I just got really unlucky that all of them drop as Exiled and not get a single Divine Orb. Other notable drops include 80 Chaos Orbs, 1 Einhar's Memory of Harvest Beast that sells for around 100 Chaos, 2 T17 maps at 90 Chaos each, 11 Silver Oil at 30 Chaos each, and 5 Blight Ravage maps at 30 Chaos each. All of these alone adds up to 840 Chaos, that's 5.6 Divines at current market rate, which makes this an about 1 Divine an hour farm at zero investment. On top of that, you also get all kinds of bubblegum currency and maps that you can use yourself for crafting and map rolling, or you can also sell them if you like to. So, the profit is actually a lot higher than the 1 Divine an hour. Once you have gotten stronger and have more currency to spare, you can then move on to some of the low investment strategies, which I happen to have a video that talks about exactly that. While the video was made during the Necropolis League, most of the details are still relevant for the current league. I will link it in the description below. If you find this video helpful, please consider giving it a like and subscribe to the channel. It would truly mean the world to me. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask in the comments section below. I promise I will reply to every single one of them. Thank you so very much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.